Welcome one and all to the Proving Grounds, powered by Verizon. I'm Mazel, joined by Jolly and Smacks. So happy to have you lovely people with me today. I'm so excited to get to share the day with you all. As, yes, we are a little bit late to the party here, but we got to get right into it because we have our first matchup on the docket. It is a best of three between Team Liquid Academy and FlyQuest Academy. Loser goes into the lower bracket. Winner gets to secure a little bit further of a spot, Jolly.
Yeah, that, and I mean, with the matchups that we've got today, we have two favorites in the upper bracket in general. Of course, as we look at this one, TL Academy has been doing an incredible job so far this season. FlyQuest Academy, they've been struggling a little bit, but have still managed to maintain that upper bracket position. So we, no matter what, are going to get some heaters too, as we can see there. Dig Academy and C9 Academy, the other favorite being C9 here today.
And we watched the other half of the upper quarterfinals last week on Thursday. We're getting the second half today. We're staying here in that realm right in the middle of your screen for the entire day today. FlyQuest versus Team Liquid, and then Dig versus Cloud9. I'm really excited for both of these matchups because it's just all Academy teams from here. It turns out those teams are pretty good in Proving Grounds this year.
The last two times I've been on broadcast, it's just been Academy Day, and I feel like I feel at home. Honestly, it feels like we're just in the normal state of things.
Good for you guys. Good for you guys.
Good for us.
You know, I at least got to see the last team. We got to see 100 Thieves, and of course they did go into FlyQuest Academy. It took them down into 2-0. So hey, the teams that are going to be dropping today will go to encounter and face those amateur teams. They're not out just yet.
The amateur brawl in the lower bracket. You got to be careful about the gulag down there. But speaking of teams, we got to talk about Team Liquid Academy. I know we have one of the biggest Ayla stands on the desk right now, but I'm going to toss it to Jolly first before we get the monologue and talk about this roster a little bit, because Team Liquid Academy have resurged themselves into this split. It was looking rough at the beginning, but here in the playoffs, here at the end of the season, it has been incredible.
Oh, it really has. Bradley has been absolutely popping off on this team, doing a spectacular job of integrating himself as a player. Armeo, of course, is just a classic and has such a deep champion pool. Harry and Jan, I mean, all of these players honestly have made themselves as mainstay names here in Academy, if not making their way up into the professional scene. So I am just excited to see what FlyQuest is able to pull out of them today, to be honest.
What do you got, Ayla Stan? 5,000. What do you got? You got anything to say?
I'll tell you out there in the chat, if you're listening right now and you think you're the #1 Ayla fan in the world, you are wrong. It's me. Unless you're maybe Ayla's mom. As I say, Ayla's mom can be first, but I'm second afterward. I'm the biggest Ayla fan in the world. Shout out to him. I think he has really turned this team into something fearsome in this bracket. They went a combined 10-2 in their last 6 series in the Academy regular season, and I'm really excited for their momentum to keep on building and building and building, because this team does have 4 of the same 5 players that they had when they got first seed last year.
Exactly that. And on the other side, their opponent will be no small task to take down, as we do have FlyQuest Academy. Some may say the underdogs in this situation with all the wonders that have been for Team Liquid Academy, but there are some stellar standouts. I know we didn't get to talk about it too much in the pre-show because we didn't get to do the pre-show, but the Spyrax show in the mid lane, UG performing in this later part of the split, it's been incredible, honestly, Jolly.
Yeah, and you know what? Philip has also been a standout player too. Sure, he has some of his off days, off games, but when it comes to coming in clutch and playing some of these really heavy power picks towards the top side, he does a really good job of that. And even when he's up against some counter picks, he's able to kind of self-sustain himself there so that UG is able to explore the map, because we see him as such a heavy initiator in the early parts of the game as well. So yeah, don't discount this team. They are definitely not the favorites in this matchup though.
We got experience in the bottom lane though, especially in looking at Tomo, Smacks.
Yeah, we got some cool rookies on FlyQuest, but Tomo and Diamond have looked phenomenal, especially recently in their 2 wins in Proving Grounds so far. Wildcard aces, they completely crushed it. We do get to watch some of these plays here from Tomo specifically. I really like this look on the Kai'Sa because, you know, for Tomo and for many other marksman mains out there in the world right now, it's been Jinx and Zeri and Aphelios all this time. Tomo's pulling out the Kai'Sa, the Lucian. He's getting in there and trying these new champions, and that to me is very exciting. I want to see that sort of thing build and build in the meta for Proving Grounds Spring.
And I think when you're looking at some of the adaptations that FlyQuest have had, right, they adapted the style that we were seeing Cloud9 Academy take so much of. They have been willing to try little things, and it's come up aces for them. I mean, you look at this composition here. They got a Yasuo and a Kaisa, both sitting at 5-1 and 9-1 respectively towards the end of the game. So it is actually incredible to see that veterancy come through clutch for FlyQuest Academy when they're trying to gear themselves up for the future spans. And speaking of spans, we got Tomo here in the span of a month. I guess he spammed it. Tomo played over 500 games of Korean solo queue. Actually peaked top 100. He's also 6'2".
Yeah, he's got a big wingspan, keeping the theme right there. Very tall guy. We got to see him a bit on stage last year when he was subbing in for the LCS team for FlyQuest. And I really enjoyed that look from him. You know, they haven't had the best performance so far in this split. They did finish 8th in the Academy regular season, but this team has been ramping up into something fierce, and I think a lot of that does come from Tomo really stepping up and being a big leader alongside Diamond for this big rookie squad.
And on the other side, you got to talk about Jan, because Jan, you know, the Zeri main of NA developmental, but himself being able to perform on Team Liquid Academy with so many other stellar stars.
I think something, too, that really stands out here for Jan is his positioning in all of these fights. And that's something you have to focus on heavily when you are a Zeri player in general. And so it's just spectacular how TLA is able to really approach a lot of these fights where it might seem like they are kind of on the underhand. And then all of a sudden the rest of the team hops in. Armeo on this Hecarim, who is just able to spam keys and deal out so much damage. And there we see the rotations, the position, right? Losing so few members in a massive team fight like this. And that's up against a team like Winthrop, who has been showing up in terms of the amateur scene.
We see some of these clips are pretty long. That's just because Zeri likes taking really long team fights and just skirting on the outside of it, as we all saw from, I'm sure, the Twitter clip that's got like 1.5 million views or something by now. Jan's pretty good at Zeri. He's been good at this champion ever since it released, and I'm sure we're going to see this one again today. Speaking of that bot lane meta, yeah, Zeri's been around for a long time, but if you're this good at it, even after the nerfs, you can pop off, and I'm really appreciating what Jan's been able to do on this.
And I think what's so impressive is, right, I was talking earlier about like all the stars on the roster, but it's because they have so many weapons that you get to see these kinds of pop-offs, right? Because other teams have to focus so much on other individual pieces. Jan is just free firing in the backline a lot of times. I think it's absolutely incredible that he's able to capitalize on moments like that. Also, apparently he's a appreciator of art.
Yeah, I want to see that art.
Likes, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Kelsey fills us in on a lot of this stuff. Jan, apparently, it was a little bit of a struggle to get some information out of him. He's like, you know what? I don't know what's fun about me, but there are ways to find things if you just scroll through his Twitter. And it's true. If you just go over to that likes tab, I took a look at it. It's some cute art. I will say that.
But the guy is ruthless. Like, I got to talk to him once at the end of the season, and he does not hold or mince any words. I think this guy has that killer instinct. We'll have to see if it does work out. As Jolly and Smacks, we are ready for game number 1 of the series. So let's go out there and prove yourselves, shall we?
Oh, nice.
There it is. we all could have matched. We didn't even think about that one.
So take it away for draft. We'll go see you on the other side.
Thank you so much, Mazel. Not wasting any time here today. Of course, it was a little bit late, but we're not going to delay this game here. And, you know, I think the anticipation with teams like TL Academy, C9 Academy, who have just been such standout teams here, that maybe the expectation is going to be some sweeps in these series. However, I think if we're looking at FlyQuest Academy and the improvement that they have shown over the last couple of weeks, they're still a team that can push this one out. And for all we know, we might be seeing some upsets today here, Smacks.
For me, I made a big old like March Madness bracket at the start of the split, and I did actually have both Team Liquid Academy and Cloud9 Academy in the finals. So if that ends up being true, then that'd be pretty cool. Of course, if they do win today, they will be playing against each other before that. But they do have to get through these really cool teams today, and FlyQuest, the first of many for Team Liquid Academy. Really excited for this match in specific, Jolly, because we've got a bunch of rookies that are playing the split for the first time, all of them directly from Collegiate. Bradley, Yuji, and Spirax, all coming from that realm.
And I mean, they have been doing such a good job. That's, another one of the things that you got to consider is the adaptability of a player to be able to come from collegiate or the amateur scene and integrate themselves into an academy team. I mean, you've got a lot of resources, you got a lot of backing when you have the organization behind you, but it's still up to these players to kind of bring forth whatever they have to offer. And Bradley is definitely one of those that in terms of collegiate play, he was one that everyone constantly had eyes on. Same thing with Spirax, just an incredible player. And Bradley and Spirax, of course, playing against each other here in this matchup.
Yeah, we got the chance to hear from some people from CLOL last year where they did play against each other in the semifinals. Bradley on Bethany and Spirax on Maryville. Specifically, Bradley's coach Colomer at the time mentioned that when Spirax got subbed in for Maryville, they were really taken aback because Spirax had a very specific champion pool to do very well into Bradley. He's playing a lot of these niche melee assassins. And, that's really, really cool for a guy like Spirax, who we've seen really blossom into that player a bit more recently with picks like that Yasuo like we saw in the clip and things like the Akali too. I love that playstyle for Spirax. We're going to have to see if we get that one today, as we're already well through this draft a little bit here. We've got some marksmen taken away and also selected.
I like the Xayah. All right, Spax, I don't know if you know this, but I am a massive Xayah fan. All right, I've been advocating since before she came into the meta. She's always been my main, at least for the last couple of years.
Wow.
We have seen a lot less of her, though, recently. She popped up for a couple months. She was really heavy in the meta, and then she got nerfed pretty badly. Some of her cooldowns extended there, so we've been seeing more of the Jinx pickup. Obviously, Zeri has been up there. The Lucian was taken away, though, and that's something where you can recognize TL Academy. They did not ban away anything from Spirax, so as frightening as this player might be, TLA is not scared right now. Oh my god, yes!
Okay. First of all, before we get to this, Jolly, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm a Rakan player. I hit Master playing Rakan, so we might have to duo sometime. But
oh, heck yeah.
That aside, our plans for later. We've got a Nocturne right now. What is going on right here? This champion has not been picked throughout the entirety of Proving Grounds. I think this might be its first pick in all of North America for this entire split. I don't know what they're going to be doing with this one. The main assumption for me is that this is going jungle, but it has been a flex in the other roles in the past. Like maybe Bradley's gonna pull this out. I don't know.
Yeah, that's always the opportunity. And Bradley loves to play some of these cheese picks. That is totally up his alley. He likes to be kind of a meme type player. That was actually Bethany's motto or sort of mantra beforehand when they were doing really well in the collegiate scene, right? Is that they are just kind of a cheesy, fun, meme team. But we'll have to see exactly where that one lies. Of course, FlyQuest Academy still has the same exact question. It's either way, it's a confident team that has so far been locked in by TL Academy with a little bit more resilience on the side of FlyQuest.
Yeah, and I don't want to have this Nocturne fully take away from the excitement that comes from Veigar, too. This counter pick into Ahri, that's going to be really cool as well. We were just hyping up the champion pool of Spirax. This is not a melee assassin. First off, this is very niche, although, and we've seen a lot of this. I think specifically from Insanity on 100 Thieves Next. He's been pulling this out a lot all throughout the split. So maybe Sprax has taken some notes from that player. But for now, the zone threat that we have from Veigar is going to be really big. There's a lot of movement here from Jan's champion and Harry as well. That's completely blocked by the event horizon.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. Whether you're caught inside of it or whether you have to navigate around the outside, it's really going to cause some struggles here for Harry on this Ahri and wherever this Nocturne decides to play. Same thing with Jan on Zeri. We were talking about how positioning is very important for this champion in the ADC role. And now on top of that, we've got a lock in here for the Jace. Consistently more damage, more aggression coming out of TL Academy. These picks and the amount of crowd control that is accessible right now from FlyQuest Academy, which is kind of huge, is clearly not scaring TLA.
It solidifies that Nocturne's going into the jungle, and perhaps this is an Armeo counterpick special into this Viego as well. I'm thrilled to see how this matchup is going to play out. For that, we have Leona locked in for Ayla as well. We've been seeing him play this a bit more recently. The crowd control that can be provided on this team is not going to be easily ignored on the side of FlyQuest. This Leona really going to get in there and set things up for these volatile carry champions, of which Team Liquid has many.
Yeah, and this is a pretty classic kind of counter, right? If you got the Nautilus on the other side, especially, again, with the amount of crowd control that FlyQuest has in general, you might as well pick up some of your own, and you've got some decent range as well for Ayla here. The Solar Flare, of course, getting the initiations with the Zenith Blade, and as much crowd control as you can throw down to allow Yon to stay alive in some of these fights. But again, the mobility that TL Academy have, sure, with the Event Horizon, they're going to have to navigate around it, but they also have many opportunities to just disconnect from these fights and re-engage in a different position.
Very mobile champions, especially Harry with the Spirit of Fire. As long as you're not in the middle of the Event Horizon, you can play on the outskirts of that one, just like Zeri here for Yon, that we know he's so skilled at doing. These champions, very volatile at a lot of the stages of the game for Team Liquid Academy. I'm just really excited that we're already just dropping the gauntlet and kicking it across the floor, if we're honest. These champions are really exciting here for Team Liquid. Not trying to hide anything in the draft because, as we know, this is a double elimination, huge 20-team bracket that these teams are playing in. If this Nocturne pick is going to be in the meta, then Armeo is not concerned about that one at all. He's just revealing it very early on. He doesn't have Flash in this game either. He took Exhaust, so very committed to the dive.
Oh, very committed. I mean, honestly, just given the composition, that's definitely what we have to anticipate. Very early aggression coming out of Armeo, which is classic for him as his standard mantra. But I do also like the fact that, you know, you've got this safety. FlyQuest is saying, hey, we like that you guys are playing as aggressive as you are. We like the initiation that we're seeing. We're going to continue to stack crowd control on crowd control on crowd control. And then the Gragas pick at the end, too, gives them a little bit of kind of counterability towards the late game, especially against this Jace in the early parts.
I want to hear from you, actually, as our resident Xayah expert, Jolly, on what the opinion of the Xayah build recently is, because we've seen some players are going for like the lethal tempo and the crit build, and some of them are going for lethality and airy. Which one actually works better for you, do you think?
Okay, the lethality and airy one was good for a while. I like lethal tempo. I build 6 scale forces on this champion. Basically, if you can get some repositioning available on top of what she's already got, it's so effective and efficient to be able to use that blade collar, whether or not you even have to throw the ultimate out, and then you can keep that in your pocket as some sort of survivability later in the game. So they both work, but the area, I think, kind of hit its peak a couple months ago as we head into game.
Yeah, I think Tomo is agreeing with the lethality version with the Summon Airy. I don't think you can go for the crit build with Summon Airy. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just too close-minded. You can go for the best of both worlds, maybe Gale Force into Collector or something. We'll see what Tomo decides to go for. We do have also Predator for Veigar. That's really exciting.
Oh my goodness. Hey, you know what? The other team, Team Liquid Academy, they've got plenty of mobility right now. Might as well counter it with a little bit of your own. And there's only so much you can get away from Veigar, especially with Predator on the boots like that. And it's just more of an opportunity for Spirax to actually land that Event Horizon and force somebody to either flash over or get taken down on the crowd control hit.
Let's look at this early game a bit for the junglers. As Yuji is playing this Viego, you typically do want to farm up pretty heavily on Viego. You get a really big power spike once you hit level 6. The problem is that is even more true of Nocturne. So you kind of imagine that Yuji's going to want to get into these lanes earlier than Armeo. Bit uncomfortable for what you would expect of Viego, and maybe that is the idea behind this counter pick. But you can see that they're preparing for this a bit more than usual, with Philip actually starting with the cask, sending one into the Raptors to make sure that Yuji has a faster clear right off the bat. And this does open up for Raptors red into Krugs if he wants to take an early visit to Bradley's lane.
Now, we'll have to see if that is the case, even though these are junglers that like to kind of take their time in the early parts and clear out as much of the jungle as possible. I gotta say that the players themselves are not. And for a player like Yuji in particular, he just defies the meta constantly. I would not be surprised if he decides to make an appearance, 2, 3. This is something that we've very consistently seen from him. Of course, generally a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more early game champions that he's selected, but I like the late game resiliency, again, that is kind of, rounding out the composition that has been locked down here by FlyQuest.
I think for FlyQuest, they've had a lot of agency in the early game recently. They've been going for some more of these assassins, as I mentioned, for Spirax in Proving Grounds and in the last few weeks of Academy 2. So we have a bit of a pause. We're going to find out what's going on with that one and update you shortly. But for the early game agency, you have some. For Veigar and Viego, there's some crowd control. You got some stuns. You really do want to scale up on these champions, though. And I think they need to be careful of that one. be very calculated with where they actually go, because Ahri's going to be more powerful most of the time with her damage and her mobility earlier than Veigar.
Yeah, and given the composition too that TL Academy has, you do not want to feed over an easy kill or waste any time when you're FlyQuest right now, because the longer you stall this out, the longer you force, that first blood to kind of be later and later in the game, the better off things are looking for FlyQuest, because Team Liquid Academy is going to be trying to find that very early snowball really anywhere on the map. And once Nocturne hits level 6, I can guarantee you that Armeo is going to be absolutely everywhere aside from his jungle. In fact, doing a good job of trying to navigate his way into the enemy jungle. That's another one of his MOs.
One thing we'll have to keep in mind is where Armeo is actually landing with his ultimate, whether it be onto Spirax's Veigar or Tomo's Xayah, because both those champions do have pretty easy ways of peeling off. It's going to have to be very accurate for Armeo with the spell shield to avoid any sort of Event Horizon stun, or maybe even the route from the Xayah as well. The Blade Caller can be a bit tricky there too. Armeo's going to have a tough time this game because of the counter picks here with the Xayah and the Veigar. I'm still very excited about this champion because we haven't seen this in so long. So Armeo better know what he's doing here.
Yeah, I did hear too, as you mentioned, I'm not sure if this Nocturne has been seen actually so far. Apparently one time, and production said it did not go well. So hopefully that will be the case here. And if Armeo is going to make a confident pick like that, I can guarantee that he's going to do his best to show up here. And like I said, it's all early game for Team Liquid Academy. So if they can get this extra pressure on the bottom side of the map for Yon, then they are setting themselves up for a really solid mid game, also indicating that these objectives are going to be a primary focus for Team Liquid.
I wonder who actually was brave enough to pull out Nocturne before. I'd be curious to know, because this is, again, a very difficult champion to make work a lot of the time, and certainly not popular. But I know for a fact it's not Malice, because I was looking at his champion pool for later, and he's only played 5 champions. Yeah. So there's that. I know it's not him. So we're going to be getting into the game here pretty shortly, as you said. For FlyQuest, we already mentioned that they need to try to make sure they're doing something in this early game so that they can match the Nocturne early on. It's sort of tricky to find out like where they want to go. I do think that if Yuji makes his path up to that top lane, he can do a lot to disrupt Bradley's Jace and their full acceleration into the mid game as well, because Jace kind of just is the longest range champion in this game once we get to the mid game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, actually, which is kind of crazy to say considering he's got to use that cannon for the additional range, range, throwing down the E to extend that on top of it. But both Yon and Tomo, the Zeri, the Xayah, we got a lot of Z sounds going on here, and they are pretty short range. Of course, you have to kind of consider the repositioning for both of these champions. It has to do with where those feathers are being laid down by the passive for Xayah, and it has to also do with where Yon can kind of navigate her way and sneak around the map for maybe some initiations towards the mid side, which again, it's kind of why I think that we're going to see the biggest first breakout fight once this dragon spawns after a couple of minutes.
See if that's where they lay their claim early on, as we're back. Told you it wouldn't be too long. We are here, and Bradley is getting a nice push in onto Philip. Yuji could have potentially come up and tried something on here, but he definitely did not do that. He's down clearing the other side of the map, and Bradley is going to take all of this time to continue just peppering in shots onto Philip, and hopefully his turret as well, because Bradley, playing this range champion in this matchup, can very easily start to stack up the turret plate in gold for himself.
You see some pings coming out as well, some vision being placed down here by Diamond, a little bit of proxy positioning, potentially making use for Yuji to navigate his way down. And this is something that FlyQuest does so consistently, putting as much aggressive vision down in the early parts of the game as possible. 2 wards dedicated right there. Team Liquid is pushed kind of far forward, but of course with the recall coming through from Tomo, there's not really an opportunity for a gank.
Seems like Tomo, with that recall, is desynced from Diamond. Diamond on this Nautilus didn't feel like he needed to recall. He might be regretting the decision now, as he's got to anchor away over to the other wall there. We need to have some time to try to find out this Nocturne, but it looks like Yuji and Armeo just had exactly mirrored clear, as they took every camp pretty much in tandem. Now they're going to go back and clear them once more. Yuji a bit sooner than Armeo, it looks like, because he did take those Raptors into Krugs first.
And a big disruption, actually, as you were talking about, Diamond didn't go back with Tomo. He actually decides to do it now after escaping from that fight. Of course, it kind of mirrors the return or the recall here from Ayla and Jan, which maybe gives him some ability to go back to that lane, but he's actually going to try to do some early navigation. Another Diamond special. You spend very little time in that lane, especially once Tomo's able to hit level 3, level 4, and has the ability to get that blade caller down with the reinforcement from the Q and the W.
I don't think he showed on that mid wave right now, so I don't believe they know exactly where Diamond is. They know he's off reset, so they have to be a bit careful. Playing in the minion waves there for Harry does not get hit by the dredge line. Nice positioning there. Makes it really difficult. Even with, you know, the heavily memed Nautilus hitbox, still really difficult to go through those minions. So Harry using that nice.
Definitely is a nice little charm right there on top of it by Harry. Of course, very low mana for both Spirax and Harry. And this is, you know, a little bit of an expectation. Actually, Spirax kind of struggling with this matchup. He does have the overall advantage, but that event horizon has a pretty long cooldown. So if Harry's able to navigate away from that one, he buys himself quite a bit of time. The recall coming through from Spirax, we'll have to see if he dedicates his TP, and that will be the case. Yuji making the first move onto this dragon number 1.
I do really like this from FlyQuest. They have some agency from this bottom lane. Once more, range advantage for Tomo, and a lot of poke onto Jan as well. They can push out that wave and extend their reach into this river once more. Tomo and Diamond, the big veterans on this squad. They've been on this team for the longest, and they are really making this lane work for themselves, even though they are against Jan's signature Zeri pick.
And we can see our Mayo navigating his way up. It wasn't even the first dragon where we saw that first fight like I was anticipating, Smacks. In fact, it's going to be more consistent farming in the jungle, so they are going to wait for that level 6. Oh, so rude. Phillips says, get out of here. I'll use my ultimate just to throw you out of the recall. Waste some extra time.
What? That's so funny for Philip. He's like, no, my Q's not fast enough. I gotta get him right now. The serotonin boost to bump him out of that bush.
It's pretty quick cooldown. Luckily, you know, Philip can say, I'll have it up soon enough, right? He doesn't have to worry about Bradley's ultimate being on cooldown because he doesn't really have the same or a comparable ultimate that has a long cooldown anyway. It's just resetting himself and swapping weapons for that player. So already so much navigation going on. FlyQuest trying to be as sneaky and tricky as possible to lay down the vision, but Team Liquid automatically knows right off the bat exactly where it's going to be, so they've been able to clear it out pretty quickly.
Giving up that dragon has been relatively unmatched here for Team Liquid so far, though. They are at a slight deficit, I feel, in the scaling department because of this. They're gaining some slight laning leads, most of that because of the rookie Bradley in this ranged matchup. Especially now that Philip doesn't have Cask, it's really tricky for you to threaten the Jace at all on this Gragas, and I think Philip knows that. He's just trying to be a nuisance in this early game and get as much farm and experience specifically as he possibly can. And he's doing a pretty good job of that so far.
He is. We can also see Yuji's back up towards the top side, maybe looking for an opportunity to make an appearance here because there isn't vision for Bradley, at least, in that river as of right now. And we do have the first Rift Herald spawning relatively soon here as well. Tomo's going to take quite a bit of damage and a little bit of back and forth between FlyQuest and TL at the bottom side of the map. But look at the vision that FlyQuest has placed defensively around this Rift Herald to prepare for it.
Yeah, I really like the pink ward in the back of the pit there. Bradley, even if he sees the ward is there, it takes way too long, and it puts you in an uncomfortable position to actually go and clear that one, so it's going to remain still. Ooh, nice one.
Nice dredge line. It's going to be the blade caller into the root. Ayla has to flash away. Jan, in the meantime, is able to just pop off as much damage as possible on a Diamond, and that is a lot of damage. Means he keeps Ayla alive. And Tomo and Diamond have to be very careful here. Yuji trying to make an initiation towards the backside. Not a lot of health, though, for these bottom laners for FlyQuest.
It's a scary Zeri. Luckily on this champion, even with your auto attack, you can check bushes like that. We just saw from Jan. When you have the fleet footwork, it tells you exactly if the champion is in there. Alongside, if you have lethal tempo, both of those runes helping out a lot. But for Jan, even though he knows there is a Viega right there, he can't really do anything about it. His support just recalled, so a lot of gold cashed in there by Tomo. He's going to be able to recall, and this is, again, going to be a scary early game here for the bottom lane of Team Liquid. They just took a pretty heavy loss in the isolated 2v2. Diamond only using the Ignite, and Jan doesn't have a defensive summoner spell anymore. Only that flash remains, so have to be a lot more careful. Alongside Ayla, no flash for him.
Yeah, no flash. Does have the Hex Slash, of course, in the wings here and available. That blue buff going to be picked up now by Harry, our Mayo. Maybe we're finally going to see a fighter, a gank. It's been almost 10 minutes into this game, Smacks, and we have yet to see any sort of counter engages or any real opportunities where a gank can actually come to fruition. I think a lot of that, though, has to do with all of this vision that has been placed down, particularly by FlyQuest, and then the removal of that, which is a high priority for Team Liquid, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest here, Jolly. I just casted a bunch of Wild Rift this weekend, and some of those games would have been over by now. So,
right? It's true. It's true. Especially with a team like Team Liquid Academy, you anticipate a fast face roll at the beginning of the game, right? Considering this composition, considering how much pressure they can get in the early parts of this game. But the struggle is, I do think down here on the bottom side is where they've been kind of trying to focus. We saw Armeo pop up 1 or 2 times. Same thing with Yuji. It's hard to counter this early play from Diamond and Tomo.
I think for Team Liquid, they're okay just spiking on one item. They know that they can be confident moving forward once they get to that point, because Ari and Zeri, if you go for the Trinity Force build, and Jace as well, really do have heavy spikes on one item. On the other side, you've got some champions that don't really do that, as ult trades.
Ooh, there it is! The Thunderstorm to come out the first blood! A beautiful Blade Caller. It's already been utilized, so it's not going to be able to lock down Mayo or Ayla. Yuji not quite getting there in time, trying to throw out the Hallowed Mist to maybe pick up a little bit of speed, but very well played by Tomo.
It's Tomo and Diamond again. The veterans on this team are staying stalwart in this lane. That one was a 2v3 this time around. They won the 2v2 before. Jan didn't have his heal anymore, and the ultimate's not quite enough to ramp up the movement speed for Jan. There's too much crowd control with Tomo redirecting the feathers onto him. And speaking of Tomo, the dodge on the ultimate was beautiful. Once the Nocturne comes in as well, the spell shield does not void any of the crowd control. And I just really like that play from Tomo. He's doing you proud on your favorite champion.
He is. That's the power of Xayah, man. It's true. I mean, that Featherstorm comes in huge when you are playing against the little crowd control on top of it that is available right now on the side of Team Liquid Academy. You can say, all right, I'm going to keep it safe for, you know, Jan, potentially Harry later on, and then Armeo if I really need to on some paranoia play later in the wings. But beautifully done. And the timing on that one could not have been prettier.
And I was talking about item spikes for Team Liquid. Tomo has an Eclipse now,
There
so
it is.
they were able to take that team fight, the little skirmish in the bottom lane, moving over to the Dragon as well. 2 of those in the pockets for FlyQuest. They can be pretty comfortable moving forward into this game, knowing that they have a sole win condition threatened later on. Because they did take the time to take Dragon, Team Liquid made a pit stop over to the Baron Pit, and they were able to take that Rift Herald, and Armeo could potentially break apart some of these turrets. That is something that FlyQuest have as a threat in their back of their minds here for the next 4 minutes.
Yeah, only another minute and a half, though, left on those plates. So if they want to try to take advantage of some extra gold and get a little bit ahead in terms of items, they're going to have to move themselves forward or a little bit quicker than that. Ayla recognizing I'm probably not going to be able to catch that Nautilus, especially with Tomo down here in the wings of this tower, but it's going to end up being a 4v2 unless Yuji and Spirax navigate their way down below. It's actually the pings here coming onto Yuji in the jungle, though, as TL disconnects from the bottom lane.
More gold in Dion's pockets as he was able to deal some damage to that turret before the Rift Herald charge. That's a really big deal, as that likely will give Jan enough money to purchase that full Trinity Force. And Zeri does have a pretty big power spike right there. A lot of big team fights can come once you have this one. It's really difficult to actually take this marksman down. You don't have the same Featherstorm slipperiness as Tomo does this game, but you're very tanky once you get all of your items on this champion. So Jan's going to have a nice time playing in the middle of these team fights, as long as he doesn't get hit by that event horizon.
That one's gonna hurt. And the fact that only the 1 kill was picked up here by Tomo, and it was actually Jan that went down, certainly hurts. But Jan does not let that break his mental whatsoever. He's still doing incredibly well in creep score, and if we look across the board, that has been Team Liquid Academy has been reigning supreme really across the entire Rift, which is why we can see the gold is still evened up even after those 2 objectives in the Dragons were picked up by FlyQuest. Of course, things kind of evened out as well with Shelly in the pockets here of Team Liquid Academy.
Still a very even game. I like the Drake stack for FlyQuest again. That makes them a bit more ahead than they would usually be. And the other thing that does that is the fact that they have Spirax, who's keeping up relatively well in CS and playing the scaling Veigar champion. He's got this Predator, so he's going to be even more deadly in those team fights to start things off. And when you look across the board at FlyQuest, they don't have a lot of engage tools, so I do like that he went for that one. It's really just Diamond here. Here's the engage.
Oh, speaking of engage, there it is. It's going to be a flash forward actually after the paranoia comes through. Ayla might be the target. Tomo does have that Featherstorm up and available. Yuji very, very low. The ultimate to come out from Tomo, but he can't get in the position for the Blade Caller. FlyQuest on the backside though with Diamond is going to be able to pick up the one. Immediately responds. A beautiful charm coming out of Harry is going to give Yon a double kill. The flash forward on top of it will find a triple kill right there for Yon. And we're talking about stacking for this champion. Well, hey, we got it, Smacks.
There's the 1-item power spike coming online for Team Liquid here, Jolly. Yon is able to survive all the damage at the opener of the team fight, and Tomo is not. Full 5v5 is going to favor Team Liquid in this one this time. Let's watch what happens to Tomo here once we get the fight rolling, because Tomo does take quite a bit of damage, mostly from Yon here, but you can't really use your Xayah ultimate onto this champion. You're not voiding a lot of that damage until Bradley comes in with the flank. That's enough threat, but there's no peel afterward. And it's really beautiful stuff from Team Liquid to approach that team fight on a bunch of different angles, and now Yon is in the sweet spot here.
Oh, yeah, that's a sweet spot. Hey, you get the Triforce, you're like, excellent, I can go back, I can pick up another couple parts of items, and of course, hey, those plates are down, but now is the opportunity for these teams to pick a lane and decide where they want to initiate. We do have another Rift Herald up, but only a few more seconds, getting down to 10 until that next dragon comes up, and as we know, FlyQuest only needs one more to be sitting at soul point.
See if they're going to be able to manage that one. Infernal Dragon is a pretty nice soul to have for a team like this. Helps the Veigar burst get even more bursty, if that is an adjective that exists in the English language. And for FlyQuest, they are... Oh, thank you. Thank you for the validation. FlyQuest, they're stacking up. They're going.
Oh, it's a nice little attempt right there by Diamond to get it onto Ayla, but the dredge line will miss. They still have the upper hand on positioning here. It's a split fight in anticipation for Team Liquid. So much damage coming out of Yon right there. The paranoia on top of it onto the backside, and it's the AoE that is coming in clutch. Harry as well with the Spirit Rush, finding the one. Should be able to find another one, if not the 4, and could this be a big fight? A clean... almost clean ace right there to triple kill over to Harry. These are not the players you want to get these multi-kills, Smacks.
Man, it feels like we're playing laser tag in a haunted house right now in these team fights. Nocturne turns off the light. There's a big Veigar cage in the middle. But look at where Armeo ends up. He goes all the way around to the other side. They have no idea where the Nocturne is arriving. He goes past the Veigar cage, initiates onto the back line, and once you're playing Veigar and the enemies are going multiple angles, you're not in the middle of your cage, it's doomed already. This is so difficult to actually orchestrate a team fight afterward. The Spirax cannot manage it. All of FlyQuest fall, and that is their Drake soul point denied.
And that's one tower down for either side right there. And we can see that mid tower is barely standing, at least for FlyQuest Academy. A little bit of recalibration coming out of FlyQuest. They recognize, you know what, they had the upper hand in terms of positioning, at least for that fight, but they allowed themselves to get split up, and that jump back by Armeo, sure, he sacrificed his life for the fight, but hey, if you ask me, that's absolutely 100% worth it, especially when Harry and Yon are the ones that are picking up all the kills.
Yeah, for the next team fight, he doesn't even have to sacrifice his life. He's got stasis, so he's ready to do it again.
He's got that stopwatch in his pockets. Look at the 10 stacks on the Magi's already for Harry.
Wow.
That is terrifying.
It's a big ego book right there, Jolly. We're getting excited. Harry's confident. It's boosted in this game. He's getting ready for another charm landing. Look at this, lights off.
There it is, Paranoia coming out, a lot of crowd control right there, and it's going to be Diamond who gets taken down first in this fight. Philip needs to get out. He's going to be able to dash over the wall. Harry finds the charm onto Tomo. Spyrax proxying out the rest of the team on the backside with a great Event Horizon, though, at least saves some more members of his team.
And Team Liquid not fully committing to that one. They already got what they were looking for. The lights off were just used to secure they got the Herald. And taking Diamond on the way out is not too bad either. Team Liquid fully winning on that play. Another Rift Herald means they can start breaking apart these turrets. That mid lane turret especially, very low off of the previous play on top of it. So we'll see if Team Liquid can really start to put some devastation into the base of FlyQuest moving forward. They're already winning these fights so well. And I forgot how much I loved watching this team fight.
It is incredibly fun. I mean, even when it looks like they're poised in kind of a scary split situation, no, that is exactly what their game plan is. They are writing the script for themselves here, and so it's up to FlyQuest to kind of find some recovery off the backs of these fights. We could also see that second Rift Herald was picked up by Team Liquid Academy, so that's going to give them a little bit more pressure in these lanes. They can decide exactly where they want to focus this, and stalling out the dragons on top of it from FlyQuest. Now, if you are FlyQuest or fans of, you recognize that they have to be so incredibly safe from here on out.
Yeah, and for Team Liquid, these team fights, they're just so cool. And when you think about what this team has been good at throughout their entire runtime, like last year they were really good at team fighting. And by they, I mean the 4 players that remain on the roster, and also Bradley. He was very good at team fighting when he was a mid laner on Bethany and on Wildcard. That still translates when you role swap into top lane. And now that he's been a much more... Wait, hold on a second. Tomo.
Oh, Harry has to use a stopwatch there. Ayla comes in for the save, though Tomo does not find that blade collar there, but it forced the ultimate out of Harry, I believe.
A cleanse there for Tomo, too. Scary stuff to get hit by that Ari Charm. 14 stacks on the Medjais as well. Harry is... keeping that confidence going. I absolutely love that. As I was saying, for Bradley, his team fighting has always been good. And even though he's role swapped into top lane, that's still true. He's become a much more well-rounded player in the role too. You can see he's got a really big advantage in this matchup. And as Jason DeGragas, that is expected. You are going to get a CS advantage, but he's been able to impact the rest of the map and not miss a beat. If we look over at this top lane turret, it hasn't even taken that much damage, even though that he's been moving around the rift. So big ups to Bradley. He's been looking a lot better. One of the most improved players over the entire split for sure.
I would absolutely have to agree, especially considering he was a standout player in the mid lane for Bethany previously. Yeah. And we're talking about, I mean, 8 out of the 10 kill participation. Look at the damage that Tomo takes right there from Bradley as we're talking about him. I think his ears were burning right there. And especially with this kind of style of champion, right? He loves to be aggressive. One of the problems that Bradley had on Bethany was that he was sometimes just overly aggressive. And I think this move up towards the top side of the map has been very effective and efficient for him in the sense that now he can kind of rely a little bit more on a safer initiation on these fights, kind of going in after an item or 2 are down.
We'll see if he gets to play that signature Gwen from back in the day. He did play that one mid lane, and it's more of a top laner really. So it's kind of feels like that champion was made for this role swap for him onto Team Liquid. Well, getting ahead of ourselves a bit. We'll see how the drafts go in the rest of this series. But for now, Team Liquid, they feel like they're going to be going into Game 2 happier than FlyQuest at this point. This is a really big lead for themselves. We've seen Team Liquid completely run away with leads like this. And I believe it is finally the mid lane turret. No? Okay. Oh, it is. Thank you, minions.
Winions taking that one down. Yeah, I mean, hey, if you're TL, you feel fantastic. Harry says, okay, you know what? I can Spirit Rush into that one. Why not? It's not like you're going to be able to do much there, Spirax, who just had to flash out of that fight. And now FlyQuest need to be careful. The gold lead in favor, comparing specifically Harry and Spirax right now, is absolutely insane. I wouldn't be surprised if he was like 2,000 more up, because even just 5 minutes ago, we saw about a 1,500 gold lead, which is massive right now. And there we can see it, 10,000. It is over nice. 2K ahead. That's nutty, Smacks.
Yeah, that's huge. And a lot of the time, as Ari into Veigar, I can feel like you're running your head into a wall, quite literally, as we just saw right there, Spirit Rush into Event Horizon. And he's been able to completely avoid that one so far. He's not interacting that much with Spyrax, other than just taking some waves that are crashed into him. Just making plays onto other members. We've seen a lot of those charms land onto Tomo, onto Yuji, and Diamond as well. And this is what Ahri is all about. An Ahri player knows the easiest champion to kill for this champion, or the easiest role to kill for this champion is the bottom lane. You just go bottom lane and kill those guys. It's way easier than doing anything mid lane a lot of the time, because there's a big minion wave in the way. You can't land your charm a lot of the time. But if you Spirit Rush over a million walls, the bot lane is just going to panic. And that's kind of what's happened.
It's true, especially with the charges, you know, and the decreased time that she has between those on top of it as of late with that, you know, buff that came through a couple of patches ago. That means that if that Feather Storm comes out, if the Dredge line comes out, you can dodge them. Of course, if we see the Depth Charge, that is one of those abilities that is going to definitely hit Harry, but he can distance himself from the rest of the team on FlyQuest Academy, and this is where looking for an initiation. It's the flash over the wall by Philip, and it's a flash of response by Yon to avoid that explosive cast.
It's a good idea from Philip. It's just not easy to execute onto Zeri. This champion is so mobile. Even without the movement speed from ultimate, you just dash right over that wall. Good reaction from Yon all the same. Both the dash and the flash were well executed to avoid the flash body slam from Philip, and Yon, flashless now, does keep his life.
Hey, he's alive. That feels good. He's only gone down a single time. We can also see now these dragons are evened out. And it's 2 Infernals for the last team that you want to have an Infernal Soul accessible for them. They've already got so much raw damage, and they're going to continue to just kind of go in face first on a lot of these fights, even considering how much crowd control FlyQuest Academy had, which was kind of, you know, part of a win condition for them leading into the late game. It's starting to slip through their fingers because of that speed we were talking about for Team Liquid Academy.
All this extra damage and the speed and the pick potential, everything for Team Liquid is allowing them to reach their tendrils into the enemy team's jungle as well. We just saw Bradley stealing away the blue buff. That does not feel great for FlyQuest, especially not Spirax. So we're seeing Bradley wearing blue, and for Team Liquid, they can just rest easy, waiting and waiting for those objectives to be more accessible to them. That Drake spawning in 2 minutes, the Baron, slightly more difficult to take down. You probably want to win a team fight before that one. Team Liquid are confident all the same, and you can't blame them. These fights have been so easy for them so far.
Oh yeah, they can even initiate a fight around that objective if they really want to. We can see the amount of vision that they're placing around it, as well as clearing out here, Harry, with that sweeper to ensure that if there is a move on that objective, it's going to be an easy one for Team Liquid to jump to it first. And these bounties popping up, I mean, so many additional kills exactly where you want them if you're on the side of Team Liquid. Not only that, but I love the fact Bradley, we can see, picked up the last whisper, says, yeah, go ahead with your plated steel caps. That's fancy, that's nice and all, but I'm going to be able to burst through you no problem. And really the saving graces now are Spirax and Tomo, who are so difficult to position with right now given their short range and the amount of initiation on the side of Team Liquid.
That range problem gets larger and larger the more items Bradley picks up for his side. For Tomo and Spirax, it's very difficult to actually build some armor items. You get a Zonia's for Spirax and maybe like a Guardian Angel for Tomo. That's about it. You're not building the Frozen Heart that Philip has, so that damage from Bradley is going to stick, and it's going to hurt every single time. The range advantage is no joke in this game. As potential chunk right there as FlyQuest try to gain some ground in top river.
That was a solid one coming out of Tomo. Of course, that's how he's going to be making this work, is chunking out these members. And it was a good vision break as well. Team Liquid recognizing, okay, we have to kind of navigate over this side. We don't have that initiation. Harry goes into stasis. The paranoia does come out. A nice blade caller, though, to pick up a kill on the backside. But Yon goes in, does so much damage. Armeo has to escape from this one. That's going to be the GA pop for that jungle. Yon getting over the wall. There's one. Pick up another. It's actually going to be Bradley with the shutdown. Bradley moving on to Spirax, and now it is a 2v1. Philip, the last member alive on the side of FlyQuest Academy, and so much damage coming out of Bradley and Yon. Not much you can do. No flash for that player, and it's another ace in favor of Team Liquid.
Oh, Jolly, I love that initiation from FlyQuest. It was so well executed with all of the Gragas, crowd control into the event horizon on top of it, but they only land it onto one member of Team Liquid. It's only Harry that falls victim to this initiation. And just like we've been saying, they have so many carries on this team. Just because you kill Harry does not mean you have won the team fight. Yawn and Bradley find amazing angles on the back end right there. Beautiful stuff. And riding the wall also for Yawn. Oh, that's crazy. I really love these team fights. They're so creative.
Oh, they really are. And Team Liquid is just going to continue to be more and more aggressive with them. And that means that they can be even more creative with how they decide to initiate here. Once again, FlyQuest really set back on their back heel, taking another look at the gold. It's a big pickup, though, from Tomo to be able to get the shutdown there onto Harry. That was his first death. So that's, I keep, bringing up these saving graces, right? Or potential win conditions maybe that are in the sights here of FlyQuest Academy. And that's really all that they have going for themselves now, and the fact that Spyrex has only gone down these 2 times and is doing an all right job of maintaining himself, of course continuing to scale as the game goes on.
Yeah, maybe even bigger than a potential win condition for Tomo. He does have, I believe, the most gold in the game, as we just saw from that scoreboard, even despite FlyQuest being down pretty heavily. Yeah, it's pretty close. He's about tied with Yawn there. Both marksmen doing a lot of work for their teams. And for Tomo, it's a really big deal. He needs to be able to get all this damage down. Tricky in a range deficit against Bradley in specific. And without the cleanse as well, you will die if you get hit by a charm. So for Tomo, you have to play this picture perfect.
A charm. There's also the solar flare, and as I say it, it comes out right there on his Diamond. So much burst damage coming through from Team Liquid Academy. Diamond is going to be able to stay alive for a moment only. He tries to dredge line back into that one. It's a big shutdown from Tomo on the backside to take down Bradley, but the paranoia means that Spyrax is actually going to get locked down here. Team Liquid looking solid as they initiate behind the tower. They can disconnect from the fight right there and go over to the Baron if they really want to.
Oh, it's a double-edged sword playing Veigar against mobile champions, Jolly, because you can stop a lot of mobility with your cage, but if you're playing in a corridor, they can just hop over the wall and completely ignore your event horizon, as we just saw right there. Team Liquid were able to use the Zeri dash, the Ahri dash, the Nocturne dash, everyone just piling in over that wall and arriving on top of Spyrax's head. Very, very tragic for the Yordle.
It is a rough one. Tomo, of course, as we talked about, though, was able to at least pick one up and stay alive in that fight. So, hey, that silver lining, that saving grace, still accessible here for FlyQuest Academy. And, given that we're already over 31 minutes into this game, we're relatively split on the objectives. Yes, Team Liquid has kind of gained control of those in the overall, but a 5,000 gold advantage for them is not massive considering how much they have. There's the initiation. Out comes the event horizon. Of course, Diamond is on the front side of this one. The depth charge to come out. It gets a couple pop-ups. That's it, Harry. The first one to go down to start this one out. We can also see Spyrax using the boots. Predator not going to be able to follow up the fight, but picking off 1 for nothing is still good for FlyQuest.
Again, Harry oversteps right there into all the crowd control. If you use your Zonias on top of a Veigar cage, you're just going to get stunned as soon as you come out of that one. So unfortunate for Harry. That's how he has died 2 times in a row. And oh, how the mighty fall, Jolly. The ego book, it's empty. All the pages ripped out.
That is rough. We saw it stack up so quickly, though, so Harry still has the opportunity. He has kind of overstepped a couple of times, being the first to get caught out in these fights, though. And that means that FlyQuest is going to be the first team to start out on this Baron. Yawn dodging out on Spyrax's event horizon on that one. Baron down to its last 1,000 health, and it is going to be snagged there by Yuji with the smite. Now the initiation on top of it. It's so much damage from Tomo. They split the fight onto the backside. Bradley manages to find the one. Ayla using the stopwatch, and in goes Harry with the Spirit Rush. Can he get the damage down? What a blade collar! A double kill pickup for Tomo, who has to flash away from that fight. And now it is 4v3, but so little health for the side of FlyQuest Academy. A beautiful pickup right there from Yawn. What a response, though, to coming out of Tomo, who is able to clean up 3 kills in that fight.
Oh, and they walk away. That's enough, they say. We're all right. We're just going to walk away with our Baron buffs while we have them. For FlyQuest, they do not want to keep that fight going. They already got that prize. They just want to escape, and that is what a couple of those members do. And especially they want to be back on the Rift because there's an Infernal Dragon spawning in 10 seconds here, Jolly. That would be 4 in a row for Team Liquid Academy if they can get onto that objective. Bradley dead for the duration. Philip is going to spawn sooner, and he does have teleport, so they might be able to get into this. It doesn't look like they're trying to contest this at all. Oh boy, this is going to be really difficult to team fight with after they lose 4 Infernals in a row. Team Liquid with the soul.
Yeah, no attempt right there. It was actually a bit of a reset coming out of FlyQuest, a bunch of recalls. They say, let's spend the extra gold that we got from getting some pressure, picking up a tower or 2. But what do you sacrifice, right, when you go back for that? And it's quite a bit. 4 Infernals. That's nasty on any team. When we're talking about a team that's got a Nocturne, an Arya, Zeri, and I mean a Bradley on really anyone, but particularly this Jace here, it is going to be harder and harder now for FlyQuest to stay alive, especially with Philip now. I mean, kind of just going down in a lot of these fights. He's really just a body for aggro to allow Tomo to stay alive. Ooh, oh man.
Well, you're gonna need more bodyguards there for Tomo. One more of those shock blasts would take him out. Half HP from just one. This is what I was talking about with those 4 Infernals. This is not what you want to see on the other team's members here as Jan flashed on.
Oh my gosh. Just
so
the
fast.
dash away. Dash, he doesn't need flash. Why do you need flash when you're just able to dash away? Of course, it was only the dredge one coming out of Diamond, so not a ton for not a ton.
That's the second time in a row that Jan's been able to do this. I'm just starting to think this guy has a reaction speed of a genius. I cannot believe this. Jan is so fast with the fingers. 8-1-12 on this game. That's a 20 KDA. That's pretty good for your stats.
That is absolutely insane. A 700 gold bounty too onto Jan, who, keep in mind, has 1 death and was the first blood death that went over to Tomo. So after the first 2-3 minutes of the game, right, Jan has not gone down a single time, has been able to maintain himself here too. Tomo, of course, getting a lot of pressure, has a massive CS advantage just across the entire field. But does that matter when their speed is in the hands of Team Liquid Academy?
Speaking of marksman here, Tomo, full build at this point. He's got some extra AoE damage with the Ravenous Hydra built as his final item. It's some exciting stuff. He gets to clear those waves a bit faster with the feathers. We're going to be seeing a pretty big fight here, I would imagine, around the Baron. I don't think the Team Liquid wants to give over another one of those objectives. Is the reason why FlyQuest are still fighting in this game, despite being down for so long. And the Infernal Soul as well makes it really tricky. But FlyQuest, you got to give them a lot of credit. They did take that last Baron. They did walk away with it. And even though they weren't able to get any of these structures, they kept the game afloat for themselves.
Yeah, afloat and you know, decreasing the advantage that Team Liquid Academy had made for themselves. I think it was about a 5k difference before that fight broke out. And even with the Dragon pickup there to get the soul for Team Liquid Academy, it's only about 2,000 in favor of that team. FlyQuest, we talked about their late game potential, the crowd control that they have, as well as that frontline survivability. And you can only build so many armor penetration items before Bradley is not able to do a ton of damage later on.
He's not trying to hit them, though. He's trying to hit Tomo again and chunk half his HP. And if he can do that, then you can build all the armor in the world. It does not matter. So we'll see if Bradley's able to do that. You're definitely right. This front line is very durable. And FlyQuest, with that, have the capabilities to win a team fight. We've already saw it beforehand. They kept competitive in that aspect of the game already a few times. Need to see them do it again if they are to take down one of our big tournament favorites.
And if their objective is to keep Tomo alive, they have been doing a really good job of that recently. Of course, a lot of the times that means a sacrifice by Diamond and or Philip. Throw Yuji in there on top of it, and we can see Diamond using those dredge lines the majority of the time in the last several minutes just to escape the little crowd control that is in the pockets of Team Liquid Academy.
I don't know if y'all meant to dash all the way over there, but he certainly did do that. Better safe than sorry. He doesn't have it right now, so if he walks into the clutches of Diamond, he could very easily get hooked. Oh, I was holding my breath there. That was very
right.
scary.
This is looking scary. This is a pinch. It's a flash forward here by Philip. The paranoia onto the backside. Tomo is the target, but it's going to be Yuji who picks up the one. Bradley takes down Spyrax, who did flash away from that fight. Bradley very low, has the ignite on him. The hallowed mist coming out for Yuji to try to continue on this fight, but an ice cannon shot is going to deal a chunk of damage onto Diamond and Yuji. They're going to have to walk away after that.
So much credit to Philip and Spyrax for finding this kill onto Harry in the same way for the third time in a row. The flash body slam with the cast onto the Ahri. So deadly effective, but now that it was a 1-for-1 play, Spyrax is dead. That's the big zone threat control tool that we have here for FlyQuest that is not available at all. He has TP, but this Baron's likely dead before he can spawn.
We'll see, it's already regenning. I like that Bradley Chad play of saying, you're not touching Diamond. Diamond was only a second or two away from getting the recall. Team Liquid's like, ooh, we got the speed. We might be able to make a move on this one, but that's not the case. Philip says, hit me instead. Diamond was able to get the recall on, and, you know, enough members right there. Oh! Bradley tries to stop that recall on top of it. Enough members to stop the Baron, but can they recall and come back to this one quickly enough?
This is risky here for Team Liquid. If they die here, they lose Elder, and they likely lose the game off of this. They need to kill this very quickly or win the fight afterward. Hopefully both for Team Liquid if you're a fan.
Oh my goodness, not a lot of time right now. If you are FlyQuest and want to go in on this, is Solar Flare on the backside. Paranoia once more available. Will it be utilized though? Armeo might just use that vision advantage to get out. All 5 members have the Baron buff this time.
And long ultimate cooldowns now used there for Team Liquid though. No Nocturne, Zeri, or Leon. I called a yawn for a second. Those are too synonymous for me at this point.
It's
Philip.
True.
Oh,
Philip! That was a body slam back over the wall. It does mean that Armeo's on the front side of this. Philip takes the charm towards the back. It is the GA that is popped here for Armeo. So much damage now coming out, but it's a big shutdown. Yan taking out Tomo. Diamond, the front line, not available there anymore. Yuji and Philip both going into stasis at crucial moments, but can they stay alive is the question. Absolutely not if the damage that Team Liquid has is able to be applied, and that means that Spyrax is the last member alive here. Only Ayla losing the Baron buff in that fight.
And Ping's in mid lane right now, Jolly. It very well could be the end of the game. They've got these Baron up minions. Yan deals a lot of structure damage. So does Harry with the ability power he's got. If they can go past Spyrax and take this, then this could be game 1 right now.
It could easily be it. They have these Baron empowered minions. It's just Yan teleport available for Bradley right now, but the Paranoia can be utilized, and that should do it. Not a lot that Spyrax can do to keep this alive, and after 40 plus minutes, finally Team Liquid Academy is going to be able to take game number 1.
Oh, good game from both sides here, but Team Liquid Academy earning it in the end thanks to those team fights. I was on the edge of my seat for that last 3 minutes, it felt like, Jolly, because those team fights were so crucial. One misstep from Team Liquid Academy would have cost them the entire game, but they don't give it over to FlyQuest. They keep their objectives for themselves, and they keep their team fights going as well. Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, I'm not a nail biter, but I feel like, you know, I wanted to during the end of that game, especially considering, you know, FlyQuest started that one out really well. It was very back and forth. And even when Team Liquid had a leader and advantage for themselves, it was pretty quickly responded to by FlyQuest Academy. They kept minimizing the gold advantage, but it just got to a point where there was too much damage coming out of too many members of Team Liquid Academy, and that meant that FlyQuest couldn't sustain that with the front line that they had supplied. Armeo and Yuji, who were 2 players that we were kind of talking about that were going to be standouts, really didn't get the chance to flex their muscles on that one. It was primarily our mid laners, it was our bottom laners, and it was also our top laners. So maybe going with something a little bit more stylistically familiar for those players might work wonders for them, but we're going to have to see, because this is a 3-game series, and that was only game number 1. We are going to take a very quick break and check back in with Mazel after that, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Proving Grounds.